Morning, everybody. It is football Sunday. We've got a bunch of early games. We've got some afternoon games. We've got a late game. You guys know how we do things around here. And in the middle of all that, we have a Seahawks game. And I already did the pregame for it, but there are some last minute game notes that I think are worth going over on both sides. Just kind of a follow up to the final injury reports and a little bit of news. And these are things that can really affect this game, by the way. This is not an insignificant last minute game note video. So, starting with the Seahawks, first, I think we all saw this coming, but Eskridge is officially on injured reserve. He broke his hand. I don't expect to see him again this year. I would be shocked if he took the field again. Maybe as a return man, but we don't even seem to trust him there. So, you get to this offseason. You've got some young, interesting receivers on this team, like Cade Johnson, like Bo Melton, like Derek Young. You've got the opportunity to maybe bring in some new ones, like in the draft. I don't feel like Eskridge is going to be here after this season, so I think we have officially seen the end of Eskridge the Seahawk. Everything I hear about him is that he's still behind on understanding the playbook. There's just nothing there, unfortunately. The only thing we can say about Eskridge is that he's pretty good at making players miss after the catch. He's good at avoiding tackles. He is. But unfortunately, that requires him to get the ball in his hands first. And that hasn't happened, and I don't think it's going to be able to happen. So I believe that era is over. Now, that doesn't really affect this game, but what could is one of the promotions we have made from the practice squad to account for this, Laquan Treadwell. So Laquan Treadwell has been elevated from the practice squad. Treadwell is, I believe, a former first-round pick by the Vikings. He was a big bust there, did very little in Minnesota. Went to, might have been Jacksonville last year and had actually his best year. Now, it was only like 430 yards, but it was his best year. And he proved that he, at the very least, belonged in the NFL in some capacity. And then he kind of messed around in free agency deep into the regular season, and we finally went for it. So Laquan Treadwell will be one of the players trying to take the place of Eskridge. Now, we've got Goodwin as our wide receiver 3. We don't use a lot of 4 wide receiver sets. When we do sub out Metcalf and Lockett, we're putting in guys like Derek Young to block a lot. We use a lot of tight ends. So there are some barriers to Treadwell actually getting on the field, but I do think it is possible he ends up out there. Treadwell, to my knowledge, is an outside receiver more than anything, so I imagine there are going to be some snaps where Lockett is in the slot, Metcalf's on the outside. You need another outside receiver. Laquan Treadwell can do that. Lockett has been a very good slot receiver in previous years. I think 2019 and 2020, he did most of his work from the slot. Also elevated was V. Jones. So both guys who I'm kind of interested to see what they can do. I don't know if they're actually going to get on the field, but they have a chance. We know that Goodwin, his hamstrings can go one way or the other from day to day. So it's very possible that he ends up going down, and then you might need to throw Treadwell out there for a few plays. Let's hope he's up for it. So that's the news around Eskridge, but the big headline from yesterday and now today are Abraham Lucas. Abraham Lucas yesterday was a late add to the injury list, questionable with an illness. We don't know if he's going to play yet or not. To my knowledge, he's just questionable, and that's all there is to say about it. So the good news is that it's illness, right? It's not his hamstring. It's not his shoulder. It's not his elbow. It's not his ribs. It's not something where, oh, this could be a big problem the rest of the year. He might miss several games. No, he's ill. People get sick. If he does miss this Raiders game, it's extremely likely he would be back for the next game. But for this game, this is not what we need. Not only do we not need to miss Lucas, we also don't need Lucas playing at less than 100%. He's going to be dealing with a good amount of Max Crosby, and I don't need to tell you guys the kind of year that Max Crosby is having. He's playing incredibly well. That is the one guy on their defense that is actually doing much of anything. He's by far their best player on defense, And I don't know if I want to throw Jake Curhan at him and just say, hey, figure it out, kid. No, I mean, I'm not going to act like Lucas is going to shut down Max Crosby, but you want your best guys going against their best guys. So we'll see what ends up happening in the coming hours, but as far as I know, we don't have any clarity here. Don't know if he's going to play yet, but crossing our fingers because, granted, Jake Curhan is one of my favorite backups on this team, but throwing him in there against Max Crosby in the year that he's having, literally all pro level, I don't know if I'm into it, man. But either way, he's not actually hurt. He's just sick. And that's preferable, I think. So, yeah. The injury report this week was just too clean. We needed to have something added to it, I guess. There needed to be something on there of significance. So, boom, there you go. Abe Lucas, ill. There's one note from the Raiders that I thought I'd throw in there as well, because this is pretty significant. Josh Jacobs, per Adam Schefter, who is listed as questionable, is likely to play versus the Seahawks, barring any setbacks during his pregame warm-up. So, looks like we're going to get Josh Jacobs, which doesn't surprise me. Also, it looks like we're getting Colton Miller, their stud left tackle. So, that's a big boost to their offense that needs it, because they're down Renfro and they're down Waller still. So, I know Josh Jacobs won't be 100%, but he's really the only running back they have this year that actually carries the ball. They have Amir Abdullah as a third down back, but Josh Jacobs is the only guy who actually gets carries. So that's going to balance out their offense a little bit. That's going to give them a little more to worry about. That's really going to concern me if we come out there with those two-man fronts that got destroyed against Tampa Bay, so we don't need to be seeing any of that. Take this seriously. Understand that he, even though he's injured, is playing like one of the best running backs in the league this year. And just understand that he does change this game a little bit. And so does Colton Miller, even if he's not 100%. And I doubt that he is. I don't know how he could be. This is his first game back. But he definitely helps over Elu Menor, or whoever it was who was the Raiders' backup. I believe it's Elu Menor. So, yeah, good news for the Raiders on this front. Not necessarily good news for the Seahawks. We'll have to see if we get some word on Lucas, like maybe an hour before the game, and it's the bad news. I'll probably throw in another quick video about it. But I just wanted to quickly go over the last-minute game notes here. So, to recap, Eskridge on IR. Treadwell's been called up to help replace him. Abe Lucas, questionable, and Josh Jacobs likely to play. So, there you go. Things couldn't be all perfect this week, I guess. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Definitely see you guys in the post game.